It's only 57 days. I did it at work last month.
Really?
Good evening to the July 13th, 2016 meeting of the Economic Development Committee. Before we introduce ourselves, we'd like to just rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Derek, we can start with you with introductions.
Derek Horn.
Mark Lemay, Selectman's Rep.
Charlie Tentis, Chairman.
Andy Catterett, Vice Chair.
Kathy Hooton, member.
Derek, we're ready to start.
Okay, you've got quite a few papers in front of you, but I think as we go through them one at a time, I'll see what you have before you. The first item are the acceptance and corrections of minutes that I sent out with the agenda yesterday. Those are those are right behind the agenda there.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The next item was the review of the master plan. And for this, I'll bring your attention to, there are 3 items in your packet. For tonight, there's a draft memo that I tried to highlight the recommendations that we discussed at the last meeting. There's also a draft, it says draft updated data that has all the data from Appendix B in all the tables, and I've updated those. The only one that wasn't was the third, which was employment by place of residence and place of work. That one I still am working on, gathering that data. But that has all the data. I don't expect discussion on this tonight because you're getting it so late, but if you have any questions or wanted to know where I got this data, I can. I did try and put footnotes on everything of the new data and where I got it from. And looking through the data for the 2006 master plan, at the last meeting, there was a question about whether or not Pinardville was included. The data tables that are in the Word documents, it seems that they did include all of Pinardville. Because for the most part, they did pull from census data, and they pulled from the Goffstown town rather than the Goffstown CDP, which is does not include all of Pinardville. For it does look that they pulled from both from the whole municipality.
Thank you, Derek.
And then also, there is one new item that I've handed out to you tonight, and that is let's see if I can find it myself, the land use action items that were in the master plan, 2006, and that's a 3-page, yes, 1-C action plan. And this is one thing that I did not hand out at the last meeting, but as I was pulling together the draft memo, so I guess for tonight's purposes, I'd like to focus on the draft memo to the planning board and also the action plan. And what I've done here is just highlight, this was a 2-page action plan for how to implement the items in the 2006 master plan. And as you'll see, it had different designations, whether to plan, adopt, implement, fund, design, or construct, and it provided what the objective was, what the key action item, which year to do this in, and who was responsible. And I've highlighted those in yellow that identified the EDC on page 1C2 and 1C3. And then also on the second page, I just highlighted in green, there's a mention of an infrastructure task force, because that was a bulk of our discussion at last month's meeting. So just to go through this real quick, On the bottom of the second page, it talks about develop and deliver an effective business attraction, retention, expansion program. And that talks about infill and redevelopment within the village in Pinardville, which I think we talked about quite a bit last month.
Right, so this was already in this.
This was already in this in 2006. How much it got implemented, I guess, can be argued, but I think it was a focus of our discussion, and I tried to highlight that on the recommendations in the draft memo. Also on the second page, I will highlight, actually, I guess it's on the third page, action economic development number 9. That was create a working group of the EDC to study feasibility of TIF districts. That was done immediately after the 2006, as you may recall, that was done immediately after the 2006 master plan, and 2 separate TIF districts were proposed at town meeting for a parallel road to Mass Road between Tatro Drive and the police station, basically, and those did not pass. So at some point, the EDC or the Board of Selectmen may want to revisit that, maybe not necessarily with the same location involved, but you may want to look at that. And then land use step 34 was to work with Hillsborough County to participate in collaborative visioning and planning process for the county land. The county did do that through a design charrette of their land, and we meet with them. We try to meet with them annually to see where they are in that. They have worked to try and infill some of their vacant space at the Bouchard buildings and potentially upfit some of those spaces. So those were 2 that were really, those 3 were ones that identified the EDC as a responsible party. And I would say for the second, or the last 2 that those were done, I don't know how successful they were, but they were, they done. And then the first, we're still identifying, working on infill and redevelopment in the village, and I think we identified that in one of our recommendations.
Has the town met with the Hillsborough County for 2016?
In 2016, I have not. I know the Board of Selectmen have not. I think it's been since last year that the Board of Selectmen sat down with the county executive.
The county commissioners.
The county commissioners,
Yeah,
thank you.
We sat and met with them.
And discussed.
Is public invited to that meeting?
Was public invited to that meeting?
Is public invited to any of those meetings?
Those are public meetings. Yes, I don't know whether they have a public comment period. But yes, they are public meetings with the county commissioners.
Would it be something where you could let us know when their meeting would be scheduled? I would like to just go and listen and attend to it.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in the amount of land that Hillsborough County has in that area that we discovered when we were discussing the land on 114 that goes between the lights and to Bedford. And I'd just like to I'd like to just be a public person, if,
Yeah, they
if
typically.
anything else, just to listen to the discussion that goes on.
And I don't recall if they hold them twice a month or once a month, but they're very similar to the Board of Selectmen, where it's their business meeting for their ability to deal with issues that come up on the county level, to take care of budgeting, to take care of paying the bills and different decisions. So it's not just the land use, but I can definitely send you that meeting schedule.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And from one of our last meetings we had with them last year, I think it's safe to say that they are not interested in selling any of their land. They want to hold on to that.
Would they rent it, David?
Rent may be a different subject, and it could be a different avenue to go down, but
Yeah.
I don't remember if that was brought up, Kathy.
Yeah.
I know we had talked when there were plans for the new firehouse or safety complex. I mean, and they basically They kind of want, they want to hold on to that little land, that little part of that land all by themselves. That's their little world.
Their gem.
That's right, exactly.
How many acres?
Almost 500 acres on both sides of the road, up into the woods and down on both sides of the river.
They've got a,
So that goes up behind the county nursing home, up behind Unique Ford, way up.
yeah, it goes all the way. If you go up Addison Road to Kennedy Hill, you know where the power lines are on Kennedy Hill,
Yeah,
Charlie?
yeah.
I believe it butts.
What's up against
It butts
that?
up, right up against there, yeah.
The land.
Those were rezoned a few years ago by the planning board, working with Hillsborough County, so we did work with them on that, try and help them, and I know we have been in discussion and talking with them about the use of their vacant buildings, but they, again, they're a different political entity that has a county commission, they have their delegates where all the
They have-
state reps.
Yeah, they have a board, which
Yeah.
exactly, it's all the state reps, and
And then-
they meet, then they meet,
Yeah,
and they
so
come
there's-
together and make a decision, and then,
So there's quite a few.
it's, yeah, it's
It's a lot of
broad.
layers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like our government at the state, we have the biggest and one of the largest ones around.
Well, it'd still be nice to know
Thank you.
when they have those meetings.
Yeah, absolutely, I can do that. And then, like I said, in the green, I only highlighted that the 2006 master plan did talk about forming an infrastructure task force, specifically focusing on water and sewer services. But I think we expanded last week to also talk about natural gas. And I went a little bit further to also talk about, I know that the DPW director, as they move forward with their road plan, also meets with Eversource to see theirs, as well as cable and telephone companies to see about their plans moving forward. And then based on our meeting last month, I did prepare a draft memo. I tried to highlight what I felt were the three recommendations, and I think I'd welcome to discuss this, if I misconstrued anything that we talked about, but really to talk about strengthening and reinforcing the roles of the villages, and under that, we talked about the different organizations, infill development and redevelopment, and then also promoting a sense of space. And then another one was to focus targeted development for larger industrial, commercial users, and ensure that necessary infrastructure is in those places that are targeted, or at least communicate where the planning board thinks it's most appropriate for those targeted locations, communicate those to the appropriate bodies. And then also just update data throughout, and we'd provide the updated data to the planning board as well. But I'd welcome any feedback, and either tonight or moving forward.
I don't know if this would be the appropriate place, but I see like on 2C, we heard a lot about being business friendly, streamlining processes. So I don't know if this is the right place for us to put that on the table, but I think it would be good if the planning board and then whoever works for them actively looked for ways to market, streamline processes, provide marketing materials, encourage outreach, go to Pinardville, knock on doors, so I don't know if there's a way to if this is the right place for that. Because that's what we heard, is that the communication needs to be enhanced, and I don't know
I think
who would do that.
Okay. I think maybe one thing we could recommend to the planning board is that they consider an alternate permitting process for targeted areas, whether it be some type of performance zoning, whether it be some type of accelerated application process for targeted.
I'm wondering if it just needs to be simpler or communicated differently, because I think we heard, it's not I don't think it's any different than anywhere else. It's just, it's not communicated as simply. And that's what we tried to do with the flow charts. And, you know, I mean, I don't know, because I'm not a developer.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it is what it is. It just needs to be proactively sold, if you will, as opposed to reactive. And maybe it is being done that way, I don't know. But some of the feedback was that people get lost in the process. That's what I heard, at least.
And that's why we came up with the flow chart.
Right, right.
That's
So
exactly why we
continuing
did that, and we were
type
to
of-
put that we were going to put that at the planning board area, so when people came in,
Right.
they could hand it out to the people that are developing to make it easier for them to understand our process, and that's,
Right, so make it their responsibility, though, to continue that effort, to engage and look for creative, it's almost like marketing, you know, to a certain extent. It's, you know, how do we make this pretty instead of a 56-page manual that someone has to read? And I don't know who would do that, or how it would be done.
Would that actually be the planning board, or is that the planner?
Well, I think under the action steps, on the bottom of the second page, it talks about develop and deliver an effective business attraction, retention, and expansion program. And then it goes on to identify the planning board, Main Street, Pinardville Business Association at that time.
Are we in this document, C?
Yes, on the second page, on the bottom of the chart. EDC and town staff, that, I mean,
We don't-
what's, not to get you off track, but what's going on with Goffstown Main Street?
we can talk about that now. We,
Well, it's listed here, that's how I was gonna bring that
Yeah.
up, too.
yeah, we talked about that considerably. We did sit down with Karen Henderson, who was, I'm not sure of her status, to be honest with you, at this time. She's the president of Goffstown Main Street. They are doing some visioning sessions to see what their focus and what their role will be, if they'll continue to follow the Main Street four-point approach. They are going to be holding activities throughout the summer. They are going to be organizing the Pumpkin Regatta, so they are going to continue in existence. Will it be the same format that we're used to with a part-time executive director? They're still kind of figuring that out, so they're going to be having some visioning sessions to discuss that. So
But they're not taking the money from the town.
at this time, they are not, no.
Because they're continuing with the,
Because, well, I think, speaking with Karen, what she communicated was they traditionally use that money as a funding source for that part-time
Correct.
director role. And without that, she did not feel in good conscience that it was appropriate to.
Understandable.
but is that funding, was that funding specific to
It was
an
not.
employee wage?
It was not specific, but I think that was one of the rationale when they first came and requested that, that they use, so.
But you
But-
might say it was like a bottom line, right? You didn't have to use it for
No, they
salary,
did,
but
they didn't
used-
have to, they had a budget, but,
Okay, so they're not going outside of the direction of what it was there for. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, they're, because we don't have somebody that we're paying there, if they use it for other purposes for Main Street, they're not violating why that money
No,
was
the
voted to be.
way the warrant article was worded was to support and help fund. It did not specify a certain use. But again, at this time, they don't have plans to,
So their board's decision was saying, we're just not gonna use the funding.
at that time, yeah. Yeah, so, like I said, I know they're working to do some visioning on how they want to proceed and what role in the community they want to fill.
I'm glad to hear that they're going to, I'm glad to hear that that whole misunderstanding with the article that prompted, I think, it in the newspapers, and that they are going to continue forward with the Main Street, because I think it is a bonus for this town. I think it does pull in economic development in this town, and it has continuously grown. The Pumpkin Fest is an incredible event that people now, because it has been continuously going on for several years, people now are inviting families to come. They are inviting relatives to come over at that time to enjoy that. It is a wonderful day. And as well as all the other events that they take part in downtown. And I think it would be a great loss. And I hope with their vision that they go forward with it.
Okay, can I ask another question? On IC3, the last one, Action Rec 9, was that accomplished?
The Parks and Rec Commission has developed a recreational master plan, yes. I believe it's on the Parks and Rec website, and I can provide that
Okay, no, I was
information
just,
to you, but,
I was just wondering, because you hear so much about, our surveys also recreation, Goffstown's got recreation, so I don't know if is that specific to the Park and Recs, or does that include, outreach to the Unconunuck Mountain? Does that include this plan? Does it include the rail trail? Does it include the accessibility to the river for kayaking, canoeing, and swimming? And that would be an economic development opportunity for us to participate in that, if there is. If it's not included in it, I guess.
That's a good point.
If it's just specific to Park and Recs, or is it?
Like Bernard Park or the new fields there.
it was developed by the Parks and Rec Commission. It's been many years since I've looked at it, so I can't claim to know exactly what it is. But they did talk a lot about facilities, including the rail trail, as well as their parks, as well as fields throughout town. How much they got into outdoor, or I guess natural recreation through the mountain or the river, I'm not certain.
Just when you develop a recreation plan for the town of Goffstown, I'm thinking much bigger.
Just ball
I'm
fields.
thinking an outreach to community about what a wonderful place to do all these wonderful things. Do you want to move here? Do you want to, start your business here because we have quality of life?
We had some people at the zoning board last night who spoke very highly of the work that has been done at Roy Park. And apparently the new park swings or whatever facility stuff was being delivered yesterday. So they were very thrilled about that, but they spoke very highly about how the town has been upgrading Roy Park to a nice level. I thought I'd share that with you.
Now, is that something we even put on the website? Does the town put it on the website of these upgrades taking place? New swings, new things?
They do on the Parks and Rec.
Is that under their section? or-
Yeah, it's probably.
I mean, as long as it's there,
Yep.
because you're right. I mean, these are things that families do the checkoffs with, to see what's available. And even if it's available, are you upgrading it, or are you just letting it become dilapidated? Then why do I want to live here?
Or flip it around to businesses, if
That's
they know.
another idea, a checkoff list. Why should you move here? Parks and Rec, water, rails and trails. Go down to edge of schools.
And I even think businesses do look at this stuff. If they're like we've heard in the past, people driving through, or a wife driving through, and that was one example.
Remember that.
But there are people that come through here, I'm sure, for business people, that very stealth-like, that don't talk to anybody. That they'll ride through, that, okay, new upgraded firehouse, nice to see, nice police station. Gee, and maybe they'll look on the website, oh, they're upgrading their parks. Nice. Now at Bernard Park, aren't they gonna redo, is it the pavilion there? They're gonna do something over there, or they already have. I don't go over there now, I don't have little kids
Track is
anymore.
great.
Track is
The
beautiful.
school, the school and the town worked together to redo the track. They've done improvements at the pool to put up, there were some shade structures that were donated to the town. And I know they were planning to redo part of the pavilion. I don't know if that work's been completed yet or not. And they continue to work on the tennis court. So yeah, they are investing in that.
As long as they're mentioning it, and again, is another layer of a good thing happening that tells people that they might want to live here, or businesses, as you said, would want to come here.
Maybe we don't want to tell anybody.
Like Barnes Park, it's nice.
All over.
So Derek, with this piece, obviously you're taking some of these pieces to put into our EDC recommendations.
What I tried to capture in the draft memo is, again, rather than rewriting that 20-plus page appendix, we did talk a lot about the conceptual land use plan, the village plan, in addition, and tried to distill it down to what I thought were really, there were really 2 points that kind of came out of last week, was to, strengthen the village in Pinardville, which has, in the 2006 master plan, which were labeled the villages. And then to focus for targeted development in, for whether it's industrial or larger business offices, larger commercial, have the planning board focus where they want those and start to look at what infrastructure is already available and what infrastructure would be needed to go in those spots. I felt like those were the 2 main recommendations that we talked about last month.
And the piece you were bringing up, Andy, on Part C, is that something where we try to,
2C?
yeah, 2C, is trying to incorporate something about the,
I don't know if it's,
if would be applicable, I know what you're saying, to see if we could put something in there where it shows, I think, the efficiencies or, I guess the, well, lack of words I'll use is the speed to market, so to speak. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
yeah, absolutely.
I think part of it is, as we share and we look at these different things, it's like, okay, how can we broadcast that we're trying to accelerate some of these processes to help these developers? I don't know if that could be incorporated into that, or would that be D? I'm not sure.
One might suggest that we looked at that flow chart, and I think we were all very pleased with that flow chart and being a helpful tool for development. Maybe that should be an appendix in the economic development package where we highlight that flow chart.
Once it's approved by planning.
Right. And where are we with, it seems like, where are we with that flow chart?
I think we'll talk about it a
That's
little
coming
bit
up.
later on.
Okay.
I mean, my only concern about including that as a recommendation to the planning board is a master plan's really only looked at every 7 to 10 years. It's a little bit more static, where rules and regulations and zoning requirements and application procedure can be much more fluid and change quite a bit. But I don't know if it's worth adding, pushing number 3 down to number 4 and adding in a number 3 to talk about a continued effort to have a business attraction retention policy, a speed to market, and almost pull it out as an additional to encourage the planning board and the board of selectmen and the EDC, because again, this is the planning board's going to be working on the master plan. They can put that task back on this body here of, to continue to look at that, that retention and attraction policy, and to continue to streamline the permit, to continually, because even if you get to a point with the planning board of working to streamline a process, that's a continuing, that really has to be a continuing process that you're always looking at, because you can make some changes in the process, but I don't think once you fix something or you speed it up or make a change, that it's going to be that way forever. So that might be an additional recommendation, maybe number 3 to recommend to the planning board.
I agree. Have this one come to 4. And then actually add a number 3 in there. What's the thinking on that?
I think that's good too.
So I was also thinking, I know this speed, we're talking about speed to permitting, but it's also the outreach and marketing,
Yes.
and I'm looking at this up at 1A, you know, we mentioned Main Street, the Chamber of Commerce, you know, we need somehow to start developing community leaders in Pinardville and the Pinardville business group that used to be out there. And someone needs to do that. Someone needs to go out there. And that's an outreach and marketing type of what do they want? And so I'm thinking even more than speeding applications through, but making the whole process outreach and marketing. I don't know. You know, it's hard, you know, like with the Plan Pinardville, unless you have leaders in the community embracing that, you know, there's no point in starting down that path. So you need that outreach first.
Who would you go to? Who would be your go-to person?
Meaning here,
No,
as an
to
employee?
Pinardville.
There's nobody in Pinard.
Yeah, somebody has to develop that. Someone has to go to the coffee shops and talk and find out and talk to the businesses and say, well, what do you guys want? Do you guys want to meet next Tuesday and have coffee and discuss this?
Now, could our new planner do that?
I doubt it. He possibly could, but time.
I don't know that, again, I don't know that you want to, in your recommendation to the planning board, spell out exactly how it is implemented. But, I mean, right now it talks about continue to support the organizations, and you could add in there, and seek out leaders, or you know, begin an outreach that will support businesses. And then it's, yeah, it is, how are you going to do it? Is it, I would say, is it the planning and zoning administrator as currently constituted with his workload? No, he's,
I don't know that, so. that's-
Yeah, and I think Kathy, from the zoning board perspective and the amount, I mean, he's got almost 2 meetings a week right now
He's
with,
beyond buried.
yeah, with CIP, with planning, with zoning. He's carrying quite a share.
Yeah.
Then I think what you're saying is we need to keep this recommendation at 80,000 feet. Don't go down a treetop.
Exactly, because again, it's trying to talk a little bit more in general terms to the planning board, and then if the planning board includes that as a goal or an action step in their master plan update, then you take it out of that, and does it support, again, action by this board, the Board of Selectmen, by staff, those kind of things.
How about something to that effect that you mentioned, then seeking out leaders in the village?
I think we talked about here of, what I tried to highlight was to support organizations, but I think you could support organizations and recruit
Community leader.
community leaders. And I think we can wordsmith a little bit to try and capture what the thought is.
I think that would work then. So we stay at that 80,000 feet.
It's just putting it on the table
Right.
so that when somebody looks at this, they can say, yeah, remember that idea?
And in terms of marketing, I don't know, do you receive, I haven't forwarded these to you, but do any of you receive the email blasts from the New Hampshire Department of Economic Development? Because they have just started a program that's called like a digital, I forget exactly, and I'll forward it to you, but it's really, they are trying to connect on many different avenues, whether it's a blog, their social media, or their website. But they're trying to, again, build up that network, and they're looking for people that, whether they're in business or in positions of government, or just people that live in the state, that, you know, a couple times a month, they'll send an email with something they think is interesting, asking you to share it on, you know, whether it's your personal or your professional, whether they send it out to the Chamber of Commerce or the main streets and those kind of things, to, again, to build up that network. So in terms of marketing, that's one thing that the state is trying to do, is kind of build that outreach.
Yeah, you could send that to us. I can see it. Yep.
It's kind of on the same lines as what you were talking. I know we were talking about, weren't we saying the town's websites being updated?
It is.
Is there going to be any automated email service as part of that?
We are upgrading to a newer content management system that will work on multiple platforms. Our current one, it works on tablets and smartphones, but it doesn't, automatically resize, that kind of thing. And then we have looked at the modules that we'll use within that too, whether it's automated emails for agendas, minutes, those kind of things. So we have talked about them. We haven't gotten to the point of actually implementing those.
Because it could be this, if we develop it now,
Yep.
it could be the same thing the state's doing. Shooting out emails to people who, and nobody has to sit there and type it. It just goes out.
Right, just goes out.
Would it be worth our while to have meetings, like a meeting, or invite, like, the people of Penodville, also the people of Grassmere, also the people of Goffstown at individual meetings, to publicize it in such a way with, those signs that you pull in, we're gonna meet on such and such a date. Like when they close a road, it's gonna be closed on such and such a date. And maybe get something going in Penodville again. I don't know any other way to gather people than to possibly get some ask, invite.
Or we may have to go, and I think you may have mentioned it last month, is besides a meeting, inviting them to come, and they may or may not, is knocking on doors and going to ask them.
I think going down there, I think going down there and inviting them to meet with us.
You'd have
Like
it
us going to
there.
them, not asking
Have it
them
in
to come.
Penardville.
Yeah,
Right.
and not asking them to come to us, we go to them.
Yep.
And we sit down and we listen to, what do they want down there? There were very good points about the Plan Penardville. And there were some other ones that were not well received. And unfortunately, we lost all of it. And I don't think we captured too much more. And there are still people down there, and I hear them, like at the zoning board meetings, and I hear them when I go down there, who still want activity down there. They still want some changes down there. They still have ideas. And maybe it's a time when we ought to think about going down and maybe listening to those ideas, which will help us develop an economic development plan for that particular area.
Good. Good idea. Wouldn't hurt.
I wouldn't mind giving up another evening
Go to their neighborhood on a
Fine.
different night.
to do it.
That might have to be something, I would almost think, in September. I don't know if it's a summer thing, I don't know.
I'd wait till the schools are back
Yeah.
in, because when people are on
People-
vacation,
there's
you're
too
not
many
gonna- yeah.
things
Yeah.
fluctuating in the summer months, and it's right around the corner is August, so.
Yep.
And I think sometime early fall would be good.
Okay.
I could see getting those, you know what I'm talking about, the signs that go up that you can pull on the back of a car.
Yeah.
They put up meeting, economic, whatever. We could figure something out and invite them and see if there's any response to it.
What do you think we could have at Firehouse?
I think I'm either there, or we can talk to the school
At Bartlett
about,
School?
yeah, Bartlett.
You have easy access.
Yep.
That's a good idea. And then the follow-up to that may be going to talk to people one-on-one that might be interested.
Correct. And maybe from that, we might get some leaders that might come out and say, okay, we'll, take the bull by the horns and start to network and activate down there.
Good. It's worth trying it. that's
Okay.
For sure.
Thanks, Andy.
So getting back to the recommendations then, on 1A, you were going to add something to the effect of trying to see if we could seek out some
Recruit,
potential.
yeah, I've got to recruit community leaders, yep, yep.
And then moving number 3 down to number 4.
Yeah, and then making 3 some type of offshoot of a business traction retention plan, and then also whether it's streamlining processing, permitting process, or permitting ombudsman or something of that. I can wordsmith that and have that for the August meeting. Because right now, the planning board meets tomorrow night, so it would be too late to get this to them for tomorrow night, and then they have a second meeting in July, but
So we could see this again, to have a further discussion in
Yeah.
August, finalize it, and then get it.
yeah,
out
there's
to
not
them.
much, and I've got the notes that I can probably get this out to you, probably the end of this week, an updated version.
Because then we can get back to you.
Yep.
Then we could get it ready to get to them for August.
Do you think it would be worth finding out how much it would cost to do a bulk mailing to the residents of Pinardville for that meeting?
I can look at what our costs were for Plan Pinardville, because the rates haven't changed significantly since then. We sent those out, and then you could have the decision of, are you doing the targeted mailings to everyone in Pinardville, or are you sending it out to the businesses, the residents, both? So, yeah, I can look at and see what those were, what those costs were.
Population, or do you know the number of households? Is it in our data right here?
I don't have, it's not broken out
It's not
separately.
you
broken
could
out in
estimate.
villages.
Oh, okay, it's not broken out.
No.
So,
But usually residents also are business people.
Yes, they
So
are.
they're just not property owners,
Yep.
They spend money in the community, so what do they want to spend it on?
That's right. What do they want in their neighborhood?
anything else on the draft now?
No, I think I've got a little bit refinement to do, but we can get that back to you.
Anything else there?
Yeah, so we're going to be reviewing this draft memo again next month?
Yeah, I will get it out to you before, like I said, I will shoot for the end of this week to get that out to you by email, so you can, if you want to wordsmith it or anything before the August meeting, but then I would ask at the August meeting, we could send it, the recommendation
Move
along.
forward and send it
Yeah,
along.
so planning board can consider it as part
When
of
do
their.
they meet? They meet,
They meet the second and fourth Thursday of each month, so they're meeting tomorrow night. They're meeting again in July. They only have one meeting in August, and then they go back to two a month in September.
but it'd be good if we could get our finalized version to them
Absolutely.
for August.
For their first, yeah, for the August meeting, yep.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
The next item we had been working on was the EdSat recommendations. I want to thank Andy for all the work he did on the application process. This was, you've got this before you. This kind of goes from the idea of a flow chart to more of a step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. I've got a bunch floating around.
There's some over here. What do you want?
I've seen it, so.
No, I have one, I just want
Here's
to
a.
see which file I put it in.
Do you want me to talk about this, or?
Yeah, if you'd like to.
So, at the last meeting, I had offered to take the flow chart and see if I could find a marketing way to make it a little bit more handsome. I think that was your words. And it was hard to figure out how to make a flow chart more attractive. And I do think, in the end, that the flow chart on its own stands alone, so I don't think this is meant to replace the flow chart. But some people aren't flow chart oriented. A design person or an engineer might be. And so the best I could come up with was more of a step like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully this communicates it. I had emailed Derek earlier that step 1, I had put in the word list of items needed because I was thinking that that's always the thing I'm asking is what do I need to do? And it could just be a checkbox. And maybe that exists already and I don't know.
There is a checklist that's attached to the application, but I think we can take that, put it in the same font, attach it to this, and just say list of items needed, see attached.
Yeah, see attachment A, see
Yeah.
flow chart B,
Yeah.
and I don't know 3 pieces of paper was what everybody was thinking, but anyways, so this is something that I just worked up based on the flow chart. And we don't have the flow chart, or you have?
I
it?
kept my
Okay.
old one, yeah, I
Yeah.
brought it with me. So obviously, when you look at step 2, that would be the second one, that would be right here, right after the formal application submission.
Right, right.
And after seeing this version, I think this version is a lot cleaner. There's probably some, I think Charlie was mentioning almost some marketing tune-ups that you can, change some font size and stuff here and there, but I think this is just a lot easier to follow because, a flow chart is, you get you to your decision diamond, which in those kind of things not everybody follows, whereas a checklist is almost.
Right.
I think they complement each other.
And yeah, we don't necessarily, we could still use both, but
Things like what scared me on the flow chart when I first looked at it is it says planning board first public meeting. And so I'm immediately going, how many are there if that's the first?
Right.
Because you could get in this loop where it's zoop.
Right. What's it gonna
First,
cost me to
second,
be in all these public
third,
meetings?
fourth, fifth. So that was kind of like, ooh. So I was trying to wordsmith it a little bit. Instead of saying first, just say planning board acceptance. If it's not complete, go to step 2 again. If it is, you go to step 3, go to 4. And then the trick is there's 3 separate outcomes, which when you looked at the planning board action, I don't know if everybody would understand that those are different outcomes that have different consequences. So hopefully,
Yeah, this is a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
It's chronological, you know exactly where you're flowing. This is nice. I think this would be kind of good for a presentation piece.
right.
But for normal people that are in here, when I see this and I look back at this, is a cornfield maze
yep,
to me.
yeah.
And for some people, they're gonna get confused for 30 seconds and just go, I'm done. I'm not doing it.
And right now, looking at the step 5 planning board actions, this pretty much follows what the planning board does do right now. So I think this falls right in line with it. Sitting in on meetings for Collison and while he's been away, I mean, you either approve the application first night, or there are questions that need to be answered, things that need to be formalized, or more investigation needs to be done, so they continue the application till the next meeting, and then at the end, I would either say, deny, well, it's approve application there, but down the end here, deny application or approve application pending all of the corrections or things that have been made to the application. But I mean, this is very, very similar to what the planning board's following now, so I mean, I think it would fit very well in line.
Is deny the right word, or is that too harsh?
Nope.
I mean, I don't know how else you would
No,
say that. Not accepted?
No, that's, I mean, when you're talking about action, that is I think that's how it's defined in the statute. So I think it's not a nice word, but it is
It's a normal
it's
term that's
appropriate.
And I
Yep.
believe that's what the
You do
planning
it.
board uses, they
Yeah.
do use that deny.
Hey, but we don't go before these guys, so we don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. On step 2, technical review and notice to abutters.
Yes.
So, abutters aren't noticed for the technical review. Oh, it comes after?
They're almost, those are steps that are happening simultaneously.
Obviously, right.
Your staff is reviewing it, meetings are held, so those are happening.
My question is, from a zoning board standpoint, is what happens if they need to go in front of the zoning board? When is that?
That would be identified usually during the technical review portion. I would say that's more of an outlier, where somebody comes in that's doing formal site plan application. That's more of an outlier where you are in the process and a formal application has been submitted, that all of a sudden it's identified that a zoning board variance is needed. Most of the time, that is identified before a formal application is submitted. And I think we could put it in here, but it may confuse and may put some doubt in somebody who's looking at this, because my hope would be somebody looking at this is also talking to Jonathan or talking to myself or talking to somebody about going through that process, and that's when you would identify,
And
well,
you're getting that detailed input from you guys there.
yes, yeah. 'Cause a lot of those can be identified by staff before the application is formally submitted. And like I said, I can't recall the last time where we've had one that has gotten into the planning board process, started that public hearing, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, wait, you need this variance. It's been a long time
Right.
since we've
Right.
had anything like that. Most of the time, it's identified before they even formally submit to planning board.
Would a comment in there like technical review, review of zoning?
Yes, we could do that.
That's a very good, that's a very, very good,
Just put it as a bullet, review of zoning.
yeah, review of
Ordinances,
zoning.
or I don't know what to
Yeah,
say.
zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
We could
That's
put that,
excellent.
staff comments requested, and what we could maybe put whether it's sub-bullets or put in more detail. That's coming from the fire department, that's coming from DPW engineering. Police is providing that, as well as that would be a time to review zoning. So we could put that, and kind of build that into there.
Can I just make one other, it says staff comments, I think we should be more, say town staff, or if it's, planning board staff or whatever. Because
that you?
that's inside baseball, we know staff comments, you mean people here.
Yeah, we can,
They may
Town hall
not, somebody
staff?
from the public may, well, what's staff, whose staff is reviewing?
it's actually, it's like I said, it's fire, it's DPW engineer, it's police, it's also, they send it over to the school for comment, and it also goes to, conservation is defined in the development regulations as town staff. So,
If we just take out that little staff or the
yeah,
line.
yeah, I can
and-
wordsmith that and
Just
put,
make it all one with that.
I was just thinking putting the word town in front of the word staff, that's all.
Yeah.
Wherever it says staff, just put town staff, so people know.
you're not getting other agent, yeah.
Who are these people? Who are these
What
people?
staff?
Where
My
are they
staff?
from? Right.
Whose staff comments?
Okay.
And then, like I said, the only other observation I saw before our meeting is maybe making the step one, applicant submits a formal application, larger font. So it really tells you what the step is and then what's underneath it.
Yep.
Just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Or in a box or something like that.
Yeah, something to pull it out.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it really jumps out at you.
Okay.
I think this looks great. And I like your other idea of anything that could be attached to it. They can refer to it in one package right there.
Yeah, Andy had suggested that for the list of items needed, and we can do that. And, because, again, this would be the idea of having this it'd be helpful to have it on the website, but I think it'd also be great if somebody came in and said where they could pull it out, leave some space on the side where somebody could write some notes on the side of,
Let it be a real working document.
yeah.
We should have Steve review it.
Is this, is this focusing to go to developers, to all people who are applying to planning board? Because the formal action process, should it be, it's pretty wide open. Who are we targeting here?
So meaning,
For a larger developer, working with engineers and surveyors, for the most part, they either have experience or seek out companies that have experience with the town they're trying to develop in, or they're able to work with staff to figure out what that process is. I think this is probably for more the medium size, people that may not have a whole lot of background and maybe are doing a change of use, whether it's a tenant upfit where they're filling a vacant space, or they want to change over an existing space and come in. They need site plan review, they need formal review, and you're working with them to explain what that process is.
So would it, I mean, I don't know, but would it be considerable to maybe put developers' formal application process, or should we just leave it?
I think either that or we can, I tried to use terms taken out of the development regulations, and I think it talks about formal application. There is also a conceptual application for what that
Keep
is,
the verbiage the same.
and that's what I tried to do.
So I hear what you're saying. It's like it needs a title.
Right, it sounds
You know,
general.
Formal application
Application
for
process.
development?
We can change it, we can
Formal
change it to,
Marriage?
For formal,
Just add town
formal
drop down
application
under that.
process for development? Or
or site
for-
plan application, I mean,
Well, then you get out the zoning out of there. That's my only concern.
okay.
Do you understand what I'm
The
saying?
formal sound, it sounds too general.
For development, I guess is what it would
Yeah.
be, right? Formal application process for.
And I think what you're saying is for someone doing a bigger one, and I'll just use for an example, the mill building.
Yeah,
Someone bigger, you know, they have that whole group that comes rolling in with them.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
For formal application process for,
I think we can
Yeah.
change that development, yeah, we can change it.
This is the same process, though, say if I wanted to put something in Shaw's, these are the same steps.
That's
right?
considered a change in use, yeah. yeah.
Would this still pertain to that?
Yeah, it's not, your list of items is going to change considerably. You're not going to be coming in with and getting an engineered
Okay.
site plan,
So
but
is-
if you're doing a use that is a change of uses, our terms, it will require site plan, it will require to go back to planning board and talk about those
Going from a
things.
supermarket to something different.
Yes.
In the same footprint.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna have different requirements, so.
Should we do this then for change of use? Because I think we're looking to infill a lot. Should we do the same
I think we can-
process for that? 'Cause I'm
It
thinking-
is the same process, though. It's, you submit an application,
Okay.
right,
it is reviewed by town staff,
Okay,
it goes to planning board. There is a formal process under state law to accept an application as complete. That's a formal process.
for a
Clock
change of
starts ticking.
use.
well, the clock starts
For
ticking.
a site plan application, which is triggered by change of use, new development, those kind of things. And
What if I'm trying to change a house on Mass Road that was residence into a hair salon? Do we have, is this the same steps? Because I'm
Yes.
saying most
Yes.
businesses are small businesses.
it is.
And most people aren't developing.
It
bringing
is.
big
What's
money.
going to vary greatly is your list of items needed under step one.
Okay.
You're not developing multiple acres, you're not going to need traffic studies, you're not going to probably need a drainage study, you're not going to need that level of detail. But if you're doing a nail salon, you might need some more information for the fire department
Right.
of what kind of chemicals are you using, those kind of things, and we can try and identify those.
So where I'm taking this is, do we need to do the same thing for that applicant? Because we probably get more of those than we do of people coming in here that want to build a
A big-
4,000 square,
yes.
40,000 square foot.
And
building.
those, yeah, and the person building the 40,000 square foot commercial, or they probably have an engineering team
Right.
that is doing this for them.
Because they do it all the time.
It is. It's the people that are doing the small businesses that
Okay.
we need to help the
And this fits
most.
their need.
And this, I think there can be some wordsmithing done on this to make it a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, maybe I'm just thinking about, maybe you could do list of items needed for development, next list, see Exhibit A. I don't know, I'm making it too bureaucratic.
Here's, I know what you're saying.
Exhibit B
I know
for
what you're
change of
saying.
use.
But I think part of it is, we're trying to streamline it.
Yeah.
Let's not add more to it.
Yep.
I know what you're trying to say, so it's more inclusive, but I think part of it too is this is almost like the roadmap we want to develop, but it's a state map. When I come in with my state map, then you guys take me down to the town level or city level with list of items needed. Once you've identified, oh, you're a bigger developer, you've got to do this. You want to do the salon from a home, you got to do this. You want to do something different from Shaw's, you have to do this. Then you do the detail stuff with them here.
And I think we can do that through the attached checklist, and that's where you could have somebody standing with them that, nope, cross that off, cross that, you need a waiver for this, or you need that kind of think, but, yeah.
I know what you mean, we want to give them more information, but we don't want to have a 20-page deck again either.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Trying to get away from that.
That's not what.
You know, I think the detailed stuff they can get from you guys or
Yep.
the other town departments as they're going through that process.
Absolutely.
I think this looks good.
So
Looks
are you
nice the way
talking
they
about
lay it out,
putting an attachment A, which would have section 2E1, which would have the New Hampshire Development?
No, I pointed to that, because when I see these kind of documents, for me personally, I think, oh, let's throw a web link in there. Andy's got a good point of, you know what, you're gonna have a lot of people that come into the counter upstairs. You wanna be able to pull this out of a folder, sit and be like, instead of saying, oh, and see development regulations 2E1, no, it's, okay, fold it over, you know, dog ear the corner, and right behind it is a checklist, and somebody could write, you know, nope, do this, do this, do this. So, I think I've got a note here to do an attachment for that, and, rather than what I had initially thought was, okay, we could just build in a hyperlink there. Well, a hyperlink's not gonna work when you're,
On the website, it will.
it would, yeah, it would it would there, but when.
Now, would you still do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we can do
I think
both.
we gotta have it both ways.
Yeah, you gotta have it both ways.
Comfort level when they're in here is not, well, we have a hyperlink you can go look at.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, that's nice. I don't have my laptop with me. What do I do now?
Yeah,
Oh, let me flip the page. Oh, okay.
yeah,
You just took me through the Dunkin' Donuts
That would be a
drive.
great, just put it on the back. That
yeah,
would be a good
yeah,
spot
we
for
could do it, yep.
I think this looks good.
Yeah, very nice.
Yep, nice and smooth. Nice work.
KISS method sometimes works the best,
Usually does.
Yeah, yeah,
and this is proof of it right here.
this is really well
So
done.
with this change, then, you're gonna make those changes?
Yeah, I've got some notes to make some wordsmithing, and develop that. Even though the planning board hasn't named a rep to the EDC, I have continually kept Barbara in the loop, and she did actually make some suggestions, said, you know what, maybe you should develop a similar flow chart for the conceptual application. So in that case, I think what we can do is, I can do a similar one, because the conceptual application is much simpler. Whereas you submit an application, you get TRC comments, and then you have a public meeting, but there's no planning board action. It's just, so she had suggested that we come up with one for a conceptual application. So,
Just one thing, when I was reading on deny application, I don't know, I might suggest that you put in here, by petitioning the Superior Court within 30 days from the date of decision.
okay.
Sometimes that 30 days gets confusing with people as to when, whether it be the date of the notice or date of the decision, but it's the date of the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're gonna update this?
Yes.
And we'll have it for next month?
Yes. Yep. I don't think there's much to update, but
Minors. I think it looks
You
great.
did it.
It looks
Good,
great.
nice job.
Yeah.
Anything else? Looks good.
I think it's something if, when we put it into use, if there's something that's missing, of course, we can always add it on, but I think as a starter, this is an excellent,
I have a question for you too with Dr. Bluestone. As we do some of these things, is that something we can even send it to him, get feedback from him? See what he thinks?
doesn't hurt to ask. You might not get a response,
We
but
may, we may not, but if we don't throw it against the wall, we'll never know.
yep, we could definitely.
Good.
Another one of the EdSat recommendations was to talk about economic development strategy for the town, and Charlie asked that I provide everyone with a copy of the New Hampshire, the state's economic development strategic plan for fiscal year 2016-17. So you have that in front of you. It's 57 pages, so again, you have not had a chance to look at this, so I know Charlie had a couple of items that he had highlighted, and I also had a couple that I wanted to bring to your attention and kind of leave you to start looking at these, to start thinking about them as we consider what we may do with the town, developing a strategy for the town.
Now, I know at the all boards meeting, the selectmen had mentioned about putting together committees,
Yes,
and that would pertain to this piece.
yes. They were going to have a representative from the Board of Selectmen, from Planning Board, and Economic Development, too.
Have they discussed it at all since then, Mark, or no?
Yet.
Okay,
No,
I was just curious.
we're into the CIP stuff and
Right.
we're gonna get into our busy season here, but
'Cause I know Joanne voiced that she might be interested.
Might be interested,
in doing that. But in the meantime, we can still come up with some of our own.
send a note or email to Sue about,
Yeah,
and maybe we can put it on,
the action matrix.
yeah, the
or-
action matrix.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll try to get it in for you, Charlie, so we can,
Just curious.
yeah, no, sooner than later is probably
Right.
better.
Can I ask, isn't there's also a regional put out, I would assume, by Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, which would be more localized to where we are. This is pretty broad.
2014.
Well, that's a different region, so that, if you could show that map maybe to the other
That's
members.
Merrimack County then.
The majority of that is Merrimack County. Those communities in the green are part of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission's communities. The last time Southern New Hampshire Planning did an economic development strategy was in 2010. So they haven't updated that as a collective
So
since
for these
then.
communities, excluding Manchester from Hillsborough County, we piggybacked with this group.
We piggybacked with that
That-
group.
Okay.
Well, that's
Central,
a little bit different. Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, which includes, Ware, Dunbarton, Francistown, over to Derry, down to Wyndham, kind of along that. They did do an economic development strategy in 2010, and I can get you copies of that. They have talked about updating it, but they haven't.
it's already 6 years old.
Yeah,
See, where's this one? They just did this in December.
yeah. This is the state's.
Did they use the 2010 information?
You never know.
You never know.
It is pretty interesting information when you look through it and you get a chance. The different categories that they pick out with workforce characteristics. And where Goffstown falls with that second appendix with the southern tier. We're right on that line. Dunbarton fell in with the capital.
Appendix two
It's at the
regions.
very end. But Goffstown was in that southern tier.
That's near the end,
It's towards the very end, the
towards the
appendixes.
very end of the
Oh, okay.
And
appendices.
again, I printed this last month, so I've been looking at it pretty close.
The ones that I did want to highlight are on page 7, where it talks about, there are 4 goals and objectives that are highlighted as part of this plan. And the page prior to that, on page 6, they talk about the key industries that the state has identified to really, to go after for retention expansion efforts.
And they expand those industries with the characteristics further on.
If you look at this, you'll see under Goffstown, they list 03045, but they don't list 03102.
They do below is Manchester.
Well,
Manchester.
in Manchester, they list all the different ones in Manchester,
Yeah.
but they don't list the 2 different ones in Goffstown.
Well, they list 03102 as the west side of Manchester. That's the way they do it at the state level.
For another debate, Kathy, not tonight,
Not tonight.
not tonight.
At least it's in the right tier. Yeah, we'll give them credit for that. They didn't put it in the seacoast tier, my
Yeah.
mistake. So Derek, you were saying about.
I mean, the biggest one that I saw was on a goal 2, they talk about providing tools to local partners, and these are tools that may be available to us, where they talk about marketing availability. They have a data tool, the EMSI, which I'm not sure what that is short for. And then they've also, I know, I took some classes last year at UNH Manchester for Economic Development Academy, and they came down and talked to us about a site selector tool that they are developing for statewide they're collaborating with the commercial realtors in the state to develop a site selection website where they can highlight sites that are available and being marketed.
That's where we want to be.
Yeah.
So this is the, right there from, getting the help from them with these tools. Then we talk with the deal, the EDC at the state level, to get involved with this data. You're right, I was looking for that EMSI, I wasn't sure what that was either.
Of course, I haven't read this yet, but was there any mention about counties?
I didn't see anything with counties specifically in there.
No.
I know business recruitment on page 10, I'm just kind of jumping along, that the state is going to be participating in trade shows and host events for decision makers in our key industries, 1 through 7. Kind of, if they're doing some trade shows, and if we can find out where they are, I'd like to attend one and see what they do. I want to see what they do at their booth. Down the road, as we evolve and try to do some of the things that Dr. Bluestone recommends, and we as a committee and through the town, if there are opportunities as we get more polished with what we do and develop it with the way we want to do it is, maybe on smaller levels they have shows like that. Why can't we have a booth? We don't have to have a big one. We have the right information, what we're playing up about the town, and potential sites to develop and the such, why not do it? Or at least the first round, go see what the state does in their booth at a trade show. If it's local, we're not flying to Phoenix or Las Vegas. But if there's something that they do local and we can find out, say it's in Portsmouth at the Wentworth Hotel, then
Yeah,
I'll
go.
drive over and go,
Yeah.
just to see what they have. That was one thing that I noticed that, I think last year, if I remember reading it, they didn't have funding for trade shows.
No, and I know they've had some in the past.
Yeah. So it'd be nice to see what they do. Then the other one that I had, I don't know if you did, Eric, regional resource specialists on page 13. Assist local planning and economic development initiatives by providing that EMSI data analysis.
It's an economic modeling tool, EMSI,
Okay.
economic modeling and systems or something. Some software.
If they've got the funding for these regional specialists, and I didn't look to see in their budget what they had for that. Yeah, regional resource specialists, $650,000 in their budget. They have 5 resource specialists. So that might be something we could definitely tap into and see how they can help us.
That's probably who we had in here before.
It was Gary
Did a
Chabot,
presentation.
and I've met with, and I just can't think of the name off the top of my head. He is retired, and they have a new economic development resource specialist, and she came down here about a month and a half ago, and I sat down for about a half hour and talked with her about the programs they provide.
We don't know the ins and outs that you
Yep.
know, but obviously you guys are doing a lot of it now. so.
Yeah.
But obviously, if they have the funding and other towns and communities are looking at this, let's get on that bandwagon before they say, sorry, we're out of funds. You should have called us sooner. I guess my big question would be is if we're looking to develop some strategies, is it give everyone a chance to take a good look at this, and then let's sit down next month and get the wheel moving with that?
Yep.
And then we can also find out if that committee and who from this group would like to be on that committee as we develop those things.
On the action list, we have the application. Now, are we supposed to look over this Appendix B, Economic Development, and
No, what I'll do is I will revise my draft memo to the planning board and provide that all to you, so you can see that. And I guess, I just want to make sure that the draft memo, rather than rewriting Appendix B, I think we had talked about, let's get it down to 3 or 4 recommendations.
We need to reinvent the wheel. No, I agree.
So
You
who-
mentioned that last.
I think
Who's
the,
in charge of writing the Economic Development Appendix B for the master plan?
I don't know that, again, that was a huge undertaking they did in 2004 through 2006 with the help of a consultant.
Right.
I don't know how in-depth, I think the planning board is still having those discussions on how in-depth they actually want to rewrite and what their goal is. They have asked us to review that and make recommendations about the update. I think we've made recommendations relative to the action items that are in there. I have gone through and provided updated data, which we can give to the planning board. But I think the recommendations that we talked about in that draft memo talk to the action items that are still worth pursuing, as well as maybe some new ones to pursue as well.
And are we going to review the Economic Development Appendix of the new master plan to see if that does fall in line with what we feel our charge is?
As if they can, as they proceed through their master planning process, I can keep you informed of that, and as we see it, they're just in the infancy. I know they did put a request into CIP for funding in next year's budget to have some type of consultant work to help them kind of do some of that. Not to the level it was done in the past.
But as the Economic Development Council, wouldn't that be our charge to review that which we feel is what we feel also is part of the economic development plans for the master plan? I mean, is that our charge?
I think it is. It's not in '97. I know when they did the '97 master plan, it's my understanding that the different chapters dealing with economic development, conservation, some of those items were here, you go work on this and bring it back, and they were kind of brought together, is my understanding of what the process was.
Well, everybody met together,
And then
For
went
months,
and went separately
but then
to
when I-
refine.
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know even that the planning board they have just begun their discussion on what they've been doing is reviewing the action matrix that I gave you tonight to see what items they actually did follow through on, what state are they at, do they need to keep that in there, so they're doing that. They've asked us to review that appendix and provide recommendations on it, so not to rewrite it, and not to,
I've got that.
yeah, I don't know.
Before it goes to final print,
Yeah,
I
we'd
mean,
like
are
to
we
review
going
it.
to review it?
Oh, I think we can absolutely,
I
but
think they'll definitely share it with us. I
Yeah.
think what you're getting at is,
That's the point.
we don't know how in-depth they're gonna go.
yeah, I don't know if they're gonna have an appendix that focuses solely on economic development. I don't know. I have, to be honest with you, I have no idea what their
Continued.
process, yeah,
In-depth one,
be
or it could be a streamlined one.
yeah.
But no matter whether
But I
it's
will-
in-depth or streamlined, I
Still need to
still
see
think
it.
we still need
And I
to see
think
it.
they'd share that with us.
Yeah.
I definitely think.
Oh, I just
Yeah.
threw that on the table.
And it's
'cause I
good
hadn't
for us
heard-
to know, because then we know, does it agree with what we're trying to accomplish?
Correct. And
We have good faith in Derek that he'll definitely get that for us, so.
Yeah, no, and I will keep you informed, and like I said, unfortunately, all I know is their intentions right now is they do have that money in CIP, that if it goes through the budget process and survives, that wouldn't be till next year.
Next year.
In the meantime, they are reviewing it as a board of volunteers. You know, so,
That's understandable.
yep.
And that's what we have done. I mean, it, like I said, we won an award in 1997 for the job that we did from the state for the way we did it. And it was amazing how many people did come together and how many people did want to get involved in it. And it wasn't, some people think that it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. Other people think that doesn't take a lot of time and it's worth their hours of work. So, I mean, there are different, people have different concepts on whether or not they need to spend the time or should spend the time doing it. So I know that when we just had, there must have been at least 100 people, I would think, that were part of it, that were on the master plan for 1997. And then they put it out to consultants to do. And I think they're going back to possibly the idea similar to 97. I don't know what they're doing.
Consultants can tend to be very expensive, too.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have any other business?
The only other item that I had was Charlie had asked that I provide a copy of an article from a May article in the Boston Globe. So you have that.
Good article, as I read it, it was in the Sunday Boston Globe, because there was a quote from Barry Bluestone from Northeastern, where he stated, "Nobody has figured out how to build housing the middle class can afford. We've got to come up with some new answers." What the gist of most of this article is that a lot of the housing boom in greater Boston is literally within the city limits. Smaller projects, cluster housing, high rents, close to T and other rapid transit to get to work or to walk, and that a lot of the communities around the area that tried to make changes in the earlier decades to attract them are having problems now. Franklin, Milford, the 495 belt, the 128 belt, just some interesting reading. And it made me think of here, because there's this younger audience, and my daughter's one of them, that lives in Charlestown now and takes a bus for 10 minutes and does work in the financial district. That's where they want to be, the big cities.
Or the 128 area, the areas you talk about though, Charlie, they've really come a long way in their industrial development of areas. And I don't know if it's probably time to separate residential versus industrial and look at it from a whole different perspective. But I do understand, I read the note, and it's very interesting reading.
Not that they don't, my daughter has friends that live in the city.
Oh, yeah.
And commute to Lexington. They leave the city out to 128 to work. It really caught my eye when I saw Dr. Bluestone's quote. And I said, I'd like to share this. And these rents are out of sight. That more and more regular folks, middle class, as he states in the article, they're being pushed right out of the market. That you have a city in greater Boston that's gonna be for well-off folks, and everyone else can fend for yourself somewhere else. Interesting, though.
Middle class again.
There was another good article that I had from the business section of the Sunday News on June 5th, that for this market, job market here in New Hampshire for trained individuals, that companies are having to pay people more to get them. There's not enough trained employees for the GEs of the world and the BAFs, and they have to go and pay people more now to get them. It's interesting.
Oh, well.
Anything else? Someone make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're done. Thank you.
See you next.